Hello everybody, this is formerly Wicked Felina because I now identify as Scheherazade, Empress of the Universe. Action doll to be coming out soon. It's what great Christmas present for little girls or whoever they identify with. Everybody, no matter what it is, can identify with Scheherazade, Empress of the Universe. No emperor, just me. Okay, all right now. So my prediction is no, at this rate, Trump will not be winning Florida. Absolutely not. I've said this time and time again that they did not cheat enough in the last election. I felt that Trump, yes, would honestly win the election, but there would be so much cheating because the Democrats go to any length possible to, quote unquote, kill baby Hitler. That's their excuse. Well, we have to cheat, we have to lie. After all, we're killing baby Hitler. And we found this out during the recounts, during Jill Stein's recounts, the one who said the Russians could have gone around and stuck floppy disks in the machines to change the votes. And she's a doctor. She's a doctor of something. I think she's a physician, actually. And she doesn't know that floppy disks kind of went out with vinyl records and 8-track tapes. And then we found out that Trump was getting more and more and more votes because they were putting the votes through the machine several times for Hillary. There was only 50 votes in the box, but the box was marked 3,000. So he kept getting more and more votes. And we do know California is very easy. The form is like this. Do you have an ID? No, you don't have an ID. Go to page 2. Do you have a utility bill? No, don't have a utility bill. Go to the next page. Oh, do you have a library card? Oh, don't have a library card. Go to the next page. Do you have an address? Put down an address. And most people just put down their post office. That's the secret on how you register to vote in California. They've been doing this for years. This is, when I lived in California, they've been doing this for years. And now a judge has put through the motor voter law, which means if you're not a citizen, you can vote. And it's going on across the country that Terry McAuliffe, right before the election, did it. He changed it from you have to bring them into the registry to they are sending them in electronically or through the computer, and you no longer have to check the box if you're a felon or if you're a citizen. You don't have to do that anymore. So a lot of felons actually are slipping through the cracks, the ones that are not supposed to own guns or the ones that are sex offenders. They're actually slipping through the cracks. Thank you, Terry McAuliffe, good friend of Hillary Clinton's. And there's 8 million refugees, illegal immigrants, and a lot of people that Obama brought into this country from socialist nations into Virginia, about 8 million. So as you know what he did, that he bussed people who came over the border and flew them all over the country, even to my state, and put them in temporary housing and then place them in Section 8 housing that's reserved for poor citizens or people who are the homeless that we have should be going in there, or the veterans that are homeless should be going in there. He's putting them all over the country, and if it's a county is purple, he puts them in there to push it to blue. So things are changing all over. They're cheating in every way they possibly could. The last election, they couldn't cheat enough. California took 3 months to count. Why in God's name would it take 3 months to count California when there's no paper ballots in California? It's all computer. It's already counted. It's just they had to keep making up votes so they could look at Trump and say, "You lost the popular vote. You lost." So they couldn't give him that. They had to take all those months to make, because there's no reason with all the people in the state of California and all the people coming over the border can't, that you can give them jobs counting the ballots, for God's sakes. If all these ballots have to be looked at and counted, oh, look at this, by hand. One for president, vice president, senator. They must go through one at a time, each line, very carefully. That's why it takes them 3 months. I lived in California. It's a bunch of bullshit, okay? Oh, excuse my French. I'm sorry. Anyway, so you got that going on. And you've got, in 2017, Business Insider article said that there are 3.5 million more voters on the rolls than there are actual live adults, which means there's a great segment of adults in this country who've never registered to vote ever. So they're not on the voter rolls. So you've got that chunk and the percentage that actually legally are on the voter rolls, and then 3.5 million more. Well, there's your 3 million that Hillary got. I mean, it's no surprise how easy elections can be stolen. Apparently, there's some shenanigans going on in Georgia as well. I'm not apprised of that one yet. There's 9 million more Democrat votes. Now, why would there be? Is there 9 million more people who are listening to the news that lies about Trump, saying that he's the KKK and Hitler when he was the one who desegregated Palm Beach? Palm Beach, the Kennedys bought a house in Palm Beach. Their official residence, actually in Palm Beach, not in Hyannisport, Massachusetts, because there's no income tax down there. There's no estate tax. So you get a lot more money. But Palm Beach was segregated. If you were African American or Jewish, you could not buy a house there. And they bought their house there at that time. And guess what? The Democrats, Ted Kennedy and all that, loves the minorities. And he's the one who opened up immigration again and gave everybody HB1 visas to bring people over from other countries. And therefore, the young Americans who used to get summer jobs and the people who had jobs lost their jobs or couldn't get jobs because the people he was bringing in got the HB1 visas and they would work for a lower wage. It doesn't sound to me that he really cares about the minorities or the immigrants or the American people. He's getting money from the companies that want to pay cheaper wages. He's working for the people at the top. Very simple why you would do something like that. Very simple. So, getting back to Florida. So that no Democrat, and many a Democrat has lived in Palm Beach, Florida. Many Democrat knows that Jewish people and Black people were not allowed to even be guests in a resort of that section of Palm Beach. They all knew this, and nobody said a word. No Democrat wanted to change this. The only one man that wanted to change this was a man that we have in the office right now who bought Mar-a-Lago, and he sued the city for $75 million. And now minorities, Jewish people, descendants of African slaves, people from Africa who are not descendants from African slaves, minorities, Muslims, everybody can go not only own parts of his resort, but be guests at his resort because he desegregated. So he is the interesting candidate to be a racist, to be labeled as a racist or a KKK member, because it's interesting that the party of the KKK is labeling him and the Republicans KKK members. And also he got an award from Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton, who've now turned against him because Obama basically said you got to turn against him because he is, he's not a Democrat. You got to keep my policies in office and you're going to betray the Black people. They gave him an award because he hired more minorities and women than anybody else. And he'd hired people who didn't go to school, but people that had street smarts that you could advance in the career. You can't do this anymore. You can't even do this at JCPenney. You used to be able to go in at the ground level as a clerk and work your way up to a manager. Can't do that anymore. You can do that if you work for Trump. You can come in at the ground and work your way up. You got street smarts, you got it in there. Either you have it or you don't have it. That's how he thinks. This guy is in no way a racist or Hitler in any way, shape, or form, but they've painted him as such. And just like they painted Sessions as such. Interesting. They ignored Robert C. Byrd, who is the exalted, his name was actually Exalted Cyclops. I thought it was the Grand Dragon. It's the Exalted Cyclops. So it's like the big dick of the KKK. was the senator of West Virginia. And Obama put his statue up in the Capitol Rotunda, and he exalted Cyclops of the KKK. Why would a black man do that? Because he's half African. You see, in Africa, the people that stayed in Africa, tribes fought against each other. And one tribe would win and one tribe would lose. And all the losing tribes were brought to the coast and traded for guns. See, white men didn't enter Africa, not with the malaria, the disease, the big wild animals, the boas. They didn't know where the hell they were going. I mean, how many nets? Remember they caught Kunta Kinte in a net in the roots? They threw a net over him. The two ugly white guys did it. Somehow you would not be able to pull out that many Africans using that method, like 50 ugly white people and one net over one. What happens? Because the African people, the kings, the winners of the war, brought the losers and traded them. So he's a descendant of most probably, the winning tribe that sold the other tribe. That's why you would eulogize the Grand Cyclops of the KKK and put his statue up in the Capitol Rotunda. Okay, no more of that. I'm talking to the Democrats out there. Haven't you moaned about Jeff Sessions being the member of the KKK, that he was a racist because he had white skin and white hair, when we've already talked about the person who was actually the grand exalted dick of the KKK, and he was the one who's the mentor of Hillary Clinton and friend of the Obamas and Bill Clinton. Okay, well, Jeff Sessions is completely the opposite. In fact, let me read you a little something. You blamed Comey too. You blamed Comey and you hated Comey. You hated Comey because it was his fault that Hillary lost. And you hated Sessions because you said he was the member of the KKK. But let's read the Weekly Standard here. Okay. Sessions' actual track record certainly doesn't suggest he's a racist. Quite the opposite. In fact, as a U.S. attorney, he filed several cases to desegregate schools in Alabama. So he fought to desegregate schools. Well, Bill Clinton's friends and mentors, F. William Fulbright and Orville Faubus, KKK members and segregationalists, wanted to keep segregation in the South. That's Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton's husband, and also Hillary Clinton's mentor was, of course, Robert Byrd, Grand Exalted Cyclops of the KKK. Okay, and he also prosecuted Klansman Henry Francis Hayes, son of Alabama Klan leader Benny Hayes, for abducting and killing Michael Donald, a black teenager selected at random. Sessions insisted on the death penalty for Hayes. When he was later elected to the state attorney general, Sessions followed through and made sure Hayes was executed. The successful prosecution of Hayes also led to a $7 million civil judgment against the Klan, effectively breaking the back of the Klan in Alabama altogether. So you think that the Democrat Party, who is the party of slavery, slave owners, slave traders, KKK, and Jim Crow South, keeps telling you that this country is racist. Anybody who voted for Trump is a racist. Sessions is a racist member of the KKK. When Sessions broke the back of the KKK and put a Klan member to death for killing a black made sure he was put to death. And this is the man that Trump hired. Who else could he have hired? He was that's a great man, except he recused himself from the Russia probe. And that's why you Democrats are so upset that he's gone now, because you see, now Trump is going to hire somebody that's going to be loyal to him, like Eric Holder and Loretta Lynch were loyal and would actually broke laws to protect Barack Obama. They actually broke laws to protect Barack Obama. And Jeff Sessions recused himself from the Russia investigation. And you're scared as all shit that Hillary's going to get investigated, and you're going to find out that there was no Russia collusion. Of course there was no. We know there was Russia collusion between Obama and Hillary and Bill with Putin. We already know that they sold them 20% of our uranium supply so they can use it to make nuclear bombs, and gave Hillary $150 million and Bill an extra $500,000 for his birthday, for God's sakes. Come on. So you're screaming and whining and crying because you know that maybe justice is going to be done and you're going to learn the truth. Yeah, you didn't want Sessions, but now, yeah, you're right. Yeah, but you'll probably win. Oh, yeah, and there's that Margaret Sanger person who's also Hillary's mentor. And so she got up in a speech when she got Margaret Sanger Award, who started Planned Parenthood for this express reason. Because she wanted to lower the numbers of unwanted minority births and unwanted white trash births. She didn't like the poor white people either. And she wanted to kind of get rid of most of the poor minorities. She put these offices in all the inner cities all over the country. And then the Democrat Party, what did they do? Oh, yeah, they passed welfare, which required that the father cannot be in the home so the mother and children can receive the welfare benefits, which broke the back of the Black family. The descendant of African slaves family. And before that little caveat, that's what you call a caveat that the Democrats put in, President Johnson said that we're going to have those blanks voting for us for the next 200 years once we pass welfare. And you know what? He did it, but when we found out that he was also a Klansman, President Johnson, whatever the hell his first name was, LBJ, Lyndon Baines Johnson. Yeah, his head has a funny name, Lyndon. But before that was passed, the Black family, Black or descendant of African slaves, had an illegitimacy rate of 10%. After welfare, the illegitimacy rate rose to 75%. Before that, when it was 10% for descendants of African slaves, the white population had an illegitimacy rate of 30%. The white population was less church-going and less God-fearing than the descendants of African slaves, Black people, who, as a family, went to church every Sunday, had the father in the home. And it was a beautiful thing. It was a beautiful thing. But thank you to the Democratic Party for running all these cities and keeping all these poor people in bad schools with no future. And they drop out, get into gangs, and a lot of them get killed. And we've known this for a long time, and they live in horrible conditions. But they're all run by Democrats. All these cities where all this happens are all run by Democrats for 60 years. And don't you think the party of the Klan would do that? Absolutely, they would do that to the African American, Black, or descendant of slaves community. Whatever you would like me to say, I'll say. Okay, on with the show. And of course, the Clintons and how the Democrats first, Bill Clinton was the first Black president, but he put more Black people in jail than anybody because it was 3 strikes and you're out. And Hillary Clinton said, not only did she call Black men super predators, but they should be brought to heel, which is H-E-E-L, not H-E-A-L, which is like a master and a, okay, really bad. So they were how could he be the first Black president? So Obama, the Democrats wanted Obama in office. So what they did was they painted, which was right, actually, Bill Clinton as a racist. Because his two mentors were F. William Fulbright and Orville Faubus, 2 KKK segregationalists. And of course, Hillary's mentor was Senator Robert C. Byrd, the big dick of the KKK. We'll just call him the exalted Cyclops. We just call him the big dick of the KKK. So they are actually racist. And so painting him as racist, and apparently he said that back in the day about Obama, he would be bringing us our coffee. So, but rightfully so, Barack Obama painted them as racist. Then all of a sudden, racist, she loses. You wait 8 years. They made a deal. You wait 8 years. We were going to give you the nomination. So they screwed Bernie and gave. And all of a sudden, she was no longer the racist. Bill and Hillary, the big racists connected to the KKK, including Obama, actually, there you go. If you put the statue of the big dick of the KKK in the Capitol Rotunda, I question your racism. I question that a great deal. It makes no sense to me at all. You tell me and explain this one to me, please. Okay, so they had to paint somebody. Of course, he's Trump. He's a white male. He has to be a racist in the memory. He just has to be. Who else could? She's a woman. Clearly, she's a minority. In that white suit, she looked like she wore those Chairman Mao suits. But why didn't Trump call her Chairwoman Mao? I'll never know. Trump, if you're listening to this, call her Chairwoman Mao. Swear to God, if she runs against you next time, Chairwoman Mao. Oh God, that'd be funny. Because she did. She wore those Mao suits, just like Minnie Mao in North Korea. I said that first, trademark. But the 9 million more Democrat votes. Now, why would this be 9 million more Democrat votes? Is because you wonder, apparently the signatures aren't matching. The signatures aren't matching. So these votes are fraudulent, just like when in 2008, when Obama ran. One of the many groups that Soros funded, SCIU, went out in Chicago, the place where Obama moved to, and 7,500 Black people were killed by other Black people. 356,000 were shot in Chicago alone. African Americans shooting, or descendants of slaves shooting other. And somehow he didn't do anything about this either. But SEIU went out and rounded up, got all these voter registrations. And then after the election, they found that the voter registrations that they went to the people and the people filled them out, and then they brought them and turned them in, which is interesting because a lot of them turned out to be filled out by Donald Duck and Mickey Mouse. So they were completely fraudulent ballots. So apparently they weren't canvassing and getting these registrations from real people. None of them were probably from real people. They were probably all made up. So since these signatures on these ballots, on these registration forms do not match, and we had this campaign, the Democrats did the campaign over the net, and up to the last minute, I'm on Yahoo, and you click on the Yahoo thing to refresh the page, and it keeps bringing me to a voter registration form. at the last minute. How can you check that? Just like they couldn't check, and they didn't realize until after the election that Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck had voted. But once the vote is in, they don't remove it, even though they know that anything that comes in from SEIU is going to be a Democrat vote. It's going to be a vote for Obama. They know this. And so these new voter registrations and ballots and such, these signatures don't match, so they're fraudulent. And there's 9 million more. Why would, after Trump cut taxes, employers are seeking, they've got more jobs out there than people who can fill them. This is fantastic. More African Americans are employed than ever. Hispanics, women are employed than ever in history. He's brought back companies, and it's not because Obama, 8 years, you have to know economics. Democrat friend who took economics. It takes years for it to work. It had to be started with Obama. No, Obama put up the regulations, drove the companies out of the country. The climate restrictions and regulations that China and India, he let off the hook for, they all went there. And that's where, in Mexico, that's where it went. So we lost these jobs. These jobs aren't coming. And he himself said, these jobs aren't ever coming back. I don't know how he's going to do it. How is he going to get these jobs back? These jobs are just gone. How is that kind of rhetoric coming from a person who supposedly, now you're telling me that he worked for 8 years to bring the economy up? This is baloney. After Trump did that, of course, don't tell me that the Democrats they're really more Democrats now. They're listening to the news. There are millennials out there that are on some kind of drug. I mean, this country must be on some kind of, whether it's prescription or non-prescription, legal, illegal, on something, decided that the Democrats were the much better party to vote for. Yes, we want people to vote against Trump because he's so awful. After he's bringing the country up and he's not doing anything to hurt the minorities, he's helping the minorities. Isn't that great? Wouldn't it be great for Black families and Hispanic families to be a unit, family unit, and be able to, the father or the mother or whatever, earn the money and have an intact family and then send them to college, and then them raising themselves up out of the projects in the inner cities and living in suburbia and getting higher and higher education. This is what they deserve. It's the best way for a child to get to college or to a trade school, to get a good job and to advance in life, is to come from an intact family. Greater percentage comes from that. And don't children deserve love? Don't mothers deserve to be loved and have a husband with them instead of having to raise children all by herself, or having to get a boyfriend and having more children by that boyfriend? Isn't it better that she be loved? I mean, if you really care about African American women, I think it would be great to have little African American girls, or I say African American anymore, Americans, descendants of slaves, can look to a future where they can depend on their husband to be there with them, thick and thin, to the day they die. I mean, come on, let's get real here. And that starts with the intact family, which is being destroyed, has been destroyed in California. As I've said a million times before, they used to have drywall jobs, roofing jobs, construction jobs, all used to be held by African Americans. African American men used to be able to be married and send 2 kids to college on that salary. Now, all the jobs are going to the people who are getting a quarter of the wage coming over the border, and then supplemented 100% by the government. Destroyed single-handedly destroyed most of the homeless population in LA, 150,000, probably more than that, are mostly descendants of African slaves. So in 2 more years, Trump might not win Florida. Here's another reason why Trump might not win Florida. They voted that felons could have the right to vote. Felons overwhelmingly vote Democrat. Just like in Virginia, felons were given, well, you didn't have to check the box, and 200 felons, ex-felons, got the right to vote. And she won by 200,000, about 200,000 votes. And also the refugee and illegal immigrant, and also other immigrant populations that Obama had brought in from different parts of the world, who vote Democrat because they come from socialist countries. Well, Florida voted that felons have the right to vote. And as we know, in Alabama, it started in Alabama, or where I first heard about it, that felons were given the right to vote in Alabama. And George Soros, led a ground campaign, just like SEIU, same thing, but it's under a different name now, to get the voter registration forms to the homes of all these felons, register them to vote, and bring the ballots to them so they can vote absentee. So all the registrations and the ballots are coming through this Soros organization. And notoriously, felons vote for ex-felons. No, they're still felons. It used to be they didn't have the right to vote. They're given back the right to vote in Alabama, Virginia, and now Florida. And there's 1 million in Florida. So there's 1 million. Trump cannot overcome that. Soros will have a massive ground campaign. And just like SEIU, who knows if he filled out the vote or the registration form? Because all of them are brought to them and handed in by Soros's personnel. TPP basically was going to dissolve all the borders of all the nations. And the idea of globalism versus nationalism, this should be actually, you know what? This is a new video. I'll tell you why Soros is doing this. This is the next video. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this one. See you at the next video. Goodbye.